you doing, Josh?
I'm doing well. All righty.
All right, we are live on YouTube, it looks like. Here we go. Good evening. Today is Monday, October the 16th, 2023. I'd like to call to order the regular Board of Selectmen meeting.
Candace Bouchard.
Jonathan Moorhart.
Josh Kelly.
Todd Archelashi,
Len Albanesius.
Stephen Sedlak.
Linda Grappo.
Jack Bort.
Selectwoman Perez is excused. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Review the agenda.
Yeah, Todd, I'd like to suggest that we move item 11B, discussion of current and future grant opportunities with the Gilbert School, to after item 9, boards and commissions.
Is there a
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous. Item 4, can I have an approval of minutes from our special meeting on September 25th?
So moved.
Thank you, Candace. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Linda. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
One pass.
All in favor? Unanimous? Can I have an approval of minutes from our regular meeting on October the 2nd, 2023?
Move as presented.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a second? I will second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? 501. Item 5, citizens' comments. The Board of Selectmen welcomes public comment. Speakers be limited to 3 minutes or less, and they may speak once this round. Who wishes to speak? You're the second.
Michael Knoll, 2 Moorland Road, Winchester. Now, I know what you're thinking. Another Joey Foster comes here, but Joey had some good ideas.
He did.
All right, but I'm just here for, Torrington has the Purple Heart City. We should have the Medal of Honor City. I think we have we do have 2 Medal of Honor recipients in Forest View Cemetery. Sergeant Wesley Gibbs, Company B, 2nd Connecticut Heavy Artillery. He got it at Petersburg, VA, Virginia. Captain Samuel Horn, Company H, 11th Connecticut Infantry. Place, Fort Harrison. I think we should name 2 bridges in town. One, New Street. The other one that crosses over 44, crosses over Route 8. I think they should be named after them.
It's now named New Street.
Pardon me?
It's now named New Street. That
Yeah,
bridge.
New Street. What kind of name is New Street?
So the second one you mean is the one right
The
by the
second one
college?
is the one on
Right-
44.
Right by the college?
It's right after each.
Okay, I know which one you mean now.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
See? Innocent project.
Sister Angela?
May I have your permission, if I'm loud enough, not to look at you, but to look at everybody? Is that permissible?
That's That's fine.
Thank you.
Just spin that microphone
But
so they
speak
can
into
hear
the,
you.
speak into the microphone.
Yeah, just talk closer to the microphone.
Thank you.
There you go. You can, yep, you can
Yes.
slide it right over.
I am really here to give you an update on what has been happening since the last time I came to a meeting. And I'm very excited about the outcome of what has occurred since Christmas. I think you know that my real concern since Christmas, and I just learned about the problems, particularly from Martha Walsh, my colleague, that VetCor, which is the owner of all of the veterinary hospitals, 735 plus, it has acquired another 100, and Mars, the candy people, own 1,000 veterinary hospitals, which means that we have no say about the prices of the veterinary prices for the clients, their pets. And if, recently in the newspaper, the inflationary rise for animal veterinary hospitals was 10% in inflationary increase, far above the inflationary cost of other merchandises or other services. Beyond that, we asked that everyone sign a petition, and that petition was to close October 4th, the Feast of St. Francis, and the whole town rallied. They rallied, and they're wonderful persons that collected signatures for a petition that a clinic or clinics be built or be facilitated in the city of Winston, where the poorer people and the unhoused people and those who cannot walk and those who cannot afford a veterinary hospital. And we have already achieved 500 signatures. That's a lot. And if you haven't signed, I'll put it here. But anyway, the thing is, since then, I have visited the mayor knows all about this. I went to see him the other day. I went to see the Humane Society in Newington, and they have given us hope that the 2024, that we will be one of the prioritized groups that are asking for help, and they are going to consider clinics here amongst, but we will not know that. And he has the mayor has the printout of the letters from the two persons from the Humane Society. I've also written to all of the legislators, all of them. I got no word. They're all in the corner. I've been, put them in a corner. And not even Jay, although Jay did call me. So therefore, all the legislators, plus my friends and my colleagues have written to the legislators. Okay, I've written to AARP, and I've gone to see the Gay Street person, the one who is in charge of that complex for the retired people. I understand that it's not owned by the town, but by private individuals. So I went to where she lived, I went to where she works twice, but she's only in on Tuesdays, so that I could not speak to her. Now, why would I want to speak to them? Because the clinics need a facility. In the meantime, I spoke with Ms. Vale, who's in charge of social services, and she assures me that there will be room for those clinics in the old bank once it gets fixed up. In the meantime, maybe that Gay Street facility could, if we get them soon, could harbor the clinics. Now, in addition to the Humane Society, I've been up to visit tractor store. They're from Oregon, you know. But I finally got the address, so I will be writing to them and asking them. And I think maybe the mayor will too. We need a little positive clout, except an old dunny. Okay. And the other one that I am hoping to ask for some grant is I forget it's the Northwest Foundation, the Jim and Shirley Draper Foundation, which is in Torrington. I tried twice to call them. But I have wonderful persons who are supporting this. Remember, my friend Jimmy, all day, Saturday, got 100 signatures. We need this clinic. We need it desperately. You walk Gay Street, you walk Elm Street, in the evening, they've all got their pets and they haven't got the money. So I just wanted to put you up to date on this, and I want you to know it's for a good cause. Each one of you has a pet, I'm sure. Each one of you has a pet or pets. And I really, really would like your support in all of this. I think I have it. And if I don't, I'll pray for you. Thank you.
You should
Thank you,
also,
Sister Angela.
excuse me, you should also reach out to Best Friends.
Sorry, ma'am?
Best Friends. You should reach out to an organization called Best Friends.
Give me the number. Give me the address. I want you
It's a national organization because they donate to create dog parks, so they might be interested in a clinic.
I would love to have any name you could give me. We're working.
Okay.
The other thing is that since December, the Torrington Pet Food Fair, the Torrington Food, the truck that comes has come up here to give fruit pet food, and Little Guild has been coming. So we have to get that bird out, and they need a good place. They need a good place. Once the bank gets fixed up, if you know any contractors that would like to volunteer to help, Miss Bale. Tell them to call. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Angela. Anyone else like to speak?
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Do you have the petition with you here tonight?
Do I have a petition?
Do you have it with you tonight?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Speak if nobody else is.
I want to thank Mayor for being so kind, listening to me a couple times. Of course, Josh, the first one.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Ms. Bale is totally collaborative.
Glenn Albanesius, 229 Granville Road. Josh, I just want to acknowledge your time here as town manager. I appreciate your infusion of youthful enthusiasm. You were always, and I stress always, supportive of me and my department, and I'm going to miss you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Todd, could I comment?
Yes, sir.
I don't believe we have a committee or any kind of group that is in charge of naming. Speaker brought up the idea of naming bridges tonight. There's no committee. How does, is the selectmen, or how does that
There is
kind
an
of thing happen?
ordinance that the selectmen need to form a committee.
We did it for the East End Park, when there was a question about renaming it.
That's
You-
right.
You can rename a park, every 10 years, not before that time. So if there's an existing name on something, it's a 10-year period before it can be renamed.
Now, interestingly, we now have a historic commission, which we've never had before. I wonder if historic commission would take some responsibility in doing a thing like that. Just asking.
I'll share a little bit more information about the first meeting of the Historic Commission in a few minutes, but I do certainly know that they would be interested in some directions. So if there are any projects that the board would like them to work on, I imagine that might be a great fit, especially given the subject of the possible namesakes.
It looks like it's ordinance 145 is.
I was the
naming.
chairman of that when the East End Park renaming came up.
So there's an avenue there, Mike. There's an avenue. We can look into it.
Seeing no further public comment, item 6, town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, for those of you who haven't heard, you would have had to have been out of the loop for a little while to not hear this one. My last day in office will be October 20th, which is this Friday. I'll be succeeded by Bob Geiger, who I'm very glad to see here in the audience with us tonight. He'll be our interim town manager, and a search is underway, I'm sure, as Bob and I were just talking about, to find a new permanent town manager. So please see the town's website for more information. I'm working really hard to wrap up some prior projects before my departure date. I have a slew of additional information for the Board of Selectmen that I'll be sharing with you as we go throughout this evening to make sure that you are all as comfortable with the transition as possible. I've been going over all of that information with Bob in bits and pieces, from reports to outstanding grant contracts to employee contracts, you name it. We've got a lot on our docket, and there's still much more to go through this week. But I have every confidence that this will be a smooth, easy landing with Bob coming back to the reins. So I really appreciate that, and I appreciate everybody's support as we work towards this transition. The Citizens Academy, I just want to mention that this continues to be a great success. This past couple weeks, we went to the public schools and we went to the water and sewer plants. Future years, I'm hoping we might be able to get folks up to the Gilbert School too, but we've got so much to pack into just, I believe it's 10 short weeks that we haven't been able to get up there this time, but I hope that this will continue in the future. And I'm just very appreciative to the attendees and the instructors for the academy. The cultural district, we will be discussing this a little bit later, but I just want to make sure that everybody continues to be aware that there already has been an effort to move forward on this item. I know there are some people in the audience who have come to speak before the Board of Selectmen about this subject. We have a resolution that's already been authorized by the Board of Selectmen to go forward as part of an application to the state to create a cultural district in downtown Winsted. There's still a little bit more work that needs to be done with identifying a board that would oversee it, and that's what we'll be discussing further. Related to economic development, since this group last met, the town's job fair, what's becoming an annual job fair, was held. I was there myself a little bit before I think most of the major places of work let out, and it was already well attended. There were some deep conversations that were happening between attendees and the different firms that we had in attendance. I heard only positive feedback from the individuals that attended both on the seeking side and the seeker side. And it was really a positive thing. I hope that that will continue as well. We also held a first-time homebuyer seminar. While we did have some technical difficulties with the live stream, and we also did have some, I think, fewer individuals arrive to observe the seminar live than we had hoped, I was able to capture the whole thing on my phone. So there will be an edited video copy of that seminar, and we also have electronic copies of all of the hard materials, the presentation that was delivered that night. So I'm very happy to share that with anybody who's interested, and I was very glad to see that we did have some interest in that first-time homebuyer seminar. So thank you to Selectwoman Perez for bringing that up again and having us go forward with the presentation. We have Mountainside Drive development RFP responses that have been received. I know that those will be discussed by the board, likely in executive session later. The Historic Commission will hold its first meeting this coming Wednesday at 4:00 p.m. in the Blue Room. I have developed a list of activities that I am hoping, based on the charge that's outlined in the ordinance that was adopted by the Board of Selectmen, that I'm hoping this commission will take on. There's also the matter of the 250th celebration of the nation's founding that's come up, and I've been approached by the former Secretary of the State, Denise Merrill, who is heading up the state's 250th commission, to appoint a group that will be the point of contact for Winchester going forward as part of the 250th celebration. It's my hope that the Board of Selectmen will be comfortable having the Historic Commission be a part of that effort. And again, so that's 4 o'clock this Wednesday in the Blue Room. At 5 o'clock on Wednesday in the Hicks Room, we are going to be having a conversation between the members of the Oversight Committee, that's the Hiring Oversight Committee, and myself, where I'll be presenting what's been going on with town hiring practices and policies over the last couple of months. This is a once a quarter review that will occur. This is not, and I'll clarify this a little bit later in the meeting, I think there's been some confusion in the public as to what this committee really entails. It's not the Board of Selectmen making any decisions related to the hiring practices. It's the Board of Selectmen making sure that the town manager's office will in fact and is currently implementing hiring policy in a correct and orderly manner. So I am looking forward to that. That will be, again, here in this room, 5 o'clock on Wednesday. The town is currently seeking police officers, a utility man 3 and a utility man 4 within our water and sewer department, as well as an APAR clerk in our finance department. And so we're seeking candidates beyond that for the position of town manager. All of the information for all of those hires is on our website. Information about how to apply is there as well. And everything's been going very well with our new hiring process. I do want to make sure I note that the new lights at the soccer fields have been turned on. They're up and running. I haven't seen pictures of it myself from the actual ceremony, where I know a few folks got down to the fields last week and had the chance to turn them on. But I just want to thank everybody that was involved for pushing that project forward, making sure that we have lights for our soccer fields. Related to social services, I think I mentioned this last time, but just in case I didn't say it during my remarks, the town has received a $250,000 grant to improve 44 Elm Street to repair the roof and install a new HVAC system. This is going to allow, which Sister Angela had alluded to, the town to rent out space to local social service organizations to allow for an under one roof community resource center to exist in town. There's no match required for the grant. I'm very excited that that news came in when it did. And this is a state-funded project and opportunity for us at no cost to the town, and something that might also make the town a little revenue too. Always a positive thing. The town of Winchester was chosen as the host for this year's Sustainable CT Awards, which from my perspective is a big honor. We have made significant strides in the last few years to try and make sure that the town is practicing sustainable policy, trying to make sure that any time that we have an opportunity to choose a sustainable course, a sustainable path, we're doing so. And that's not just in the area of environmentalism, that's also in the area of our economics, trying to make sure that we have a vibrant and growing downtown, trying to make sure that we are investing where investments are needed in our infrastructure, and so much more. The award ceremony is being held tomorrow, that's Tuesday night at 4:00 p.m. at the American Mural Project. You do have to register in order to attend. You can't just walk in, but there is still a registration page that's open online on the sustainablect.org website. And I hope that we'll see a big contingency from Winchester. The town will be honored with its bronze certification this year. Related to trainings, a document, I just want to make sure that everybody in the audience and who might watch this later knows, a document has been posted on the Economic Development Commission's page on the town's website that details how businesses can get listed on the state and local tourism websites. So if that's something that pertains to you or a business that you know in town, there are step-by-step instructions that can help you get connected, help you get better promoted and recognized at the state level. So that's a very positive thing. And trainings, I've been trying to send this out a little more regularly to both the Board of Selectmen and to town staff, but trainings on a variety of subjects remain available to all municipal staff and officials through CCM. So upcoming events to mark on your calendars. Besides, we have 2 different meetings at 4:00 and 5:00 on Wednesday. On Friday at noon, it's my last day in office on Friday, and Bob Geiger will be sworn in at noon. On Monday, November 6th, it will be the next regular Board of Selectmen meeting. And on Tuesday, November 7th, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., if I'm not mistaken, there will be a municipal election held. Voting's over at Pearson School. And so long as you're a registered voter or you're eligible to be registered, you have an opportunity to participate in that vote. And that brings me to... obviously, it's not the end of the meeting, and it's not the last remarks that I'll make here, but I feel it's the most appropriate time to just say that it means everything to me that I've had the opportunity to serve this town over the last 2.5 years. the people that I've had the opportunity to get to know, the connections that I've made, the difference that we've collectively made up here as this board, and the difference that the members of our community make every day when they come up to speak to us, when they make sure that their voice is heard, when they make sure that the issues that they face at home, getting to work, at work, whatever the case might be, are heard. It's meaningful. It's meaningful to me as an individual who is trying to, who over the last 2.5 years has really tried to help this community become the best version of itself that we've all wanted. It's meaningful, I know, to everybody else up here. And it's just been wonderful to be a part of the process that is the Winchester municipal government. And that's all really thanks to the people. So thank you for being here. Thank you for having me as your town manager. And thank you for having me as part of your community for this period of time.
Questions for Josh from the board? Jack?
Josh, on the Elm Street building, I recall that there was some discussion about the need of an elevator before it could be used. Is that still required?
So the way that we envision this working pre-elevator, because obviously, the figures we had talked about before are much higher than $250,000. We think that $250,000 is exactly what we need to get the doors open. The way that I envision this working moving forward, and obviously it will be more up to Bob and others than myself, is to have office and meeting spaces downstairs where the public will be able to come in and access. There are no steps going into this building. There's no need for an elevator or a ramp of any kind. It's really turnkey as long as we have the roof and the HVAC fixed up. So that will be really the space that the public accesses and is able to meet with staff members who are renting space. The office space, areas where staff members will be able to have a computer, have a desk, things of that nature will be upstairs, and they will come downstairs to meet with members of the public. So that will be our opportunity to make sure we're providing the public with accessible services without the need of an elevator, while still making use of the full building.
In the implementation of this grant to fix the roof and install the HVAC system, when do you expect the implement or the work to be done on that?
So the town ran into an interesting situation with a steep grant some years ago now, where if you do any amount of work before a document is signed for a steep grant, it is not eligible for reimbursement. We have worked through those issues in the past. We've been told never do that again, and we don't want to make that mistake now. So it will take time just for the state to get their documents lined up. I actually had a conversation with a couple members of our finance department, our purchasing agent, and our grants manager today about the fact that that doesn't stop us from putting together bid documents. We'll have to bid out the roof replacement, and we will have to bid out the HVAC system upgrade and replacement. There are some activities that we can take on now. To guess how long it will take the state to actually get a contract to us that we can sign, return to them so we can proceed with issuing those bid documents, my best guess would be at least 3 to 4 months. You're talking about probably spring implementation at best.
I don't recall if there was a decision to be made on a group to suggest the management of this particular building and who's to be allowed to be using it. I thought we were still in the process of looking at alternatives on that.
So in terms of the administration of this project and this idea, the $250,000 is contingent on the use of this space as a shared community resource center. So that doesn't mean that it has to be solely private use for private nonprofits. It can be partially used by the town, both through the social service center and for events after hours. I know that that was a conversation that the Board of Selectmen was excited about. Are we able to continue to use the space for town functions of any kind, as well as the parking lot? It's a great opportunity to keep any drive-through events that occur in the town or any parking lot adjacent events that occur in the town going. So the answer is yes, it can continue to be used for town purposes. In terms of setting up the official rental agreements, if we're to move forward with the project, those do still need to be negotiated. There needs to be an understanding at the very least between the board and the town manager on how to proceed with those. We have had an increase in the number of firms that are interested in being a part of this project, and I'm happy to talk to you more about the additional nonprofits that may be willing to provide services out of that building. which I think the more we can provide in one place, the better. But there are alternatives, of course, that the Board of Selectmen could consider. It would not involve any state funding, which of course is the thing that the Board of Selectmen needs to know. But there are, of course, opportunities. We've had discussions with the Board of Education about Head Start in the past. We've had discussions with the Police Department about a new facility for them. We've had discussions with the Fire Department about converting it into a fire station. There are a lot of different directions that we've taken this building. So far, at least in my time here, which is coming to a close, I have been told by a chief of police that there's no interest in that building. I've been told by a fire chief there's no interest, and I've been told by Head Start that they found alternative
Well, with the
means.
possibility of rentals coming in from various organizations who have seen this place as being someplace that they want to be, is the expectation that these rents will cover the cost, the cost of running the building, the heat, electricity, all other costs, so it would not be included in the budget, the annual budget, to cover the cost of running this building?
So really, I think that your question is, will this be an enterprise fund that's outside the budget where the rental income matches the costs of building maintenance and operations? Or is it going to be something that comes under the town's budget? And the answer is, that's really an accounting question for Anne Marie. Either way, my understanding with all of the firms that have been involved with conversations up to this point in time is that they will be paying for an amount of money that's sufficient enough to cover the costs. Whether that's in a separate account or whether that's an income in the town's budget and an output in the town's budget, it's really up to the accounting department to determine.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the board? Candace?
I saw the 2 trees were replaced. What about the rest of them on the medians?
I am not sure what the next steps are for the medians, but I will find out. I saw that too, and I was very excited to see some forward progress, but we
Yeah.
gotta keep going.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the most recent accident, but not the others weren't taken care of before
Right.
that.
Anyone else? Josh, I'd just like to say that we all know it's difficult sometimes to be a part of this town, especially sitting up here, and I'd like to thank you for your hard work and your dedication that you've shown through the town the last 2 years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7, Finance Director's report.
There's another item that Anne Marie will discuss.
Anne Marie, before you begin, let me just ask a question. We received a financial report in our packet and one on the desk. How are they different?
Say that again?
Well, we received
Oh,
the
yes.
financial package in our packet
Versus what you just got.
versus what we
Yes.
just got.
So what you just received tonight is just the summary level of a comparison of 2024 year-to-date versus 2023 year-to-date results at a high level, at a department level. What you received in your packet is the detailed reports that roll up into that summary
Fair enough.
report.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. So these results are for year-to-date fiscal '24 through September 30th. So we are 3 months into the year, 25%. Our total property tax revenue year-to-date is $14,839,094, which is 55.83% of the budget. That's in comparison to $14,526,020, which was 56.95% of last year's budget. Our past due tax collections current, $115,267, 38.42% of the budget. That's in comparison to $117,689, which is 39.23% of the budget for last year. Our total year-to-date revenues are $16,042,771, 40.99% of our budget, compared to $15,261,114, which is 42.33% of the budget. Total year-to-date expenditures, $9,256,119. That's 29.57% of the budget, and that's compared to $8,354,387 in the prior year, which was at 24.16% of last year's budget. Our municipal aid received from the state of Connecticut in September, we only received one payment for tiered pilot, which was $224,661. Our cash flow at September 30th is just a little over 21 million, 21,082. Of that, 16.3 million of that is invested. 995,410 is in the Northwest Community Bank sweep account, 2.343 million in STIF, and 12,974,920 in the Northwest Community Bank money market account. Capital expenditures for September, we had 22,627 on the purchase of an animal control vehicle, 92,205 on the Case Avenue Bridge project. We paid 43,343 for a plow truck lease payment. We spent 22,57,295 on annual road maintenance, and we paid $38,000. I believe that was the final payment to the Board of Education for the Gilbert School roof replacement, and then $9,100 for a park and rec mower. I think at the beginning of the meeting, Josh also gave you the update on the electricity and the solar accounts.
I just gave it now. but
Okay, so you
have-
just got that now. That's just for your information. On that, where we are just for July and August. Just to make a note, we received notification from LSC, who is our solar company, that we have reached our maximum 100% savings allowed under the solar program for this year to date, and that would be from January, not from July. Meaning that we will not receive any additional bills for 2023. We'll probably won't see our first bill until February. So we won't receive any more solar credits, but we also won't receive any more generation bills from LSC for the remainder of the year. Questions?
Candace?
Regarding the solar credits, so how does this, you're showing us a credit. Is this over, credits not including Board of Education, but how does this relate to our budget? How do these, you've got-
This is just to give you a summary of where we're at. These are the accounts that are related to, that we have the solar energy tied to those Eversource accounts. And this just gives you a summary of, if you were to look at these line items in here, so like take Public Works, with a 1000311,822, that is where these bills get charged to.
I understand, but let's look at 2023. So you have a negative, you have $75,000 as a credit. Against what for 2023?
That is all of the accounts that are tied to the solar. So that fiscal '23 number of 75,443, that's just giving you a general idea of, you know, like what are we generating for solar credits on an annual basis? Because I think one of your points was that we were supposed to be getting at least $50,000 a year. That was what the number was. So this is just more informational, so you can see this is what we have received just in solar credits. This is just the solar credits alone.
Right, so it doesn't show us that we lost money over, you know, there was.
No, so if you look at each of these boxes in here,
Yeah.
so let's look at the first page for Public Works for Rowley Street.
Right.
So, and we'll just take fiscal '23. So in fiscal '23, our monthly bill total for fiscal '23 was $17,363.
Right.
We received a generation charge from LSC, from Lodestar, of $11,689.72. But on that generation, we received $13,752 of solar credits. So the solar farm, related to this one account, generated a $2,000 credit, which is what rolled through our general fund budget. So you had $17,363 in Eversource charges, but you have a credit of $2,000. So our net electricity on that is $15,300.49 for the year.
Thank you.
And using those same numbers on our North Main Street property, which I think must be the
That's the sewer plant?
sewer plant.
Yes.
Looks like we got a net credit of $27,977.
Correct.
Those are dollars that have gone directly to the water and sewer fund.
That is right. So our Eversource bills, if we didn't have the solar on this, we would have had Eversource bills of about $300,000, $297,000, but we received the credits of almost $28,000 that brought us down to $269,000 for the year.
So the Water and Sewer Commission would see that $27,009 as a income.
They don't see it as an income, they just see that, they don't, all 3 of these columns worth of activity is what hits the electricity expense accounts, as it does for all of these accounts on the general ledger.
I have a question regarding your final report here for the year. Have we seen final from the Board of Education at this point?
I have not. I believe there were no encumbrances remaining, though, is what I was told.
But we'd still need to see a final report, wouldn't we?
Yeah, that we would have to ask the Board of Education for.
Have we received anything, Josh, from the Board of Ed?
You do have a report from, I'm not sure if it's exactly what you're looking for,
Just
but I
the
do
end
know
of the year finance report.
that
just
there's
as,
a report from the
Anne
Board of
Marie gives us.
Education in your packet tonight.
I made a note that I didn't see that, so.
Okay, it's towards the end of your packet. It's supposed to be under our correspondence. And I do believe there's some information in here about budget year end, so we can, yeah, actually, I'm looking right now over a fiscal year 2023 town resource summary operating budget year end. And it goes into some details about a $495 surplus.
That sounds about right.
Yep. The very end of your packet.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
And just to let you know, I did receive the final packet of Hinsdale invoices for payment within the last week. I coded those today. Those will be going out, so once those get paid, we will have a final, I'll put together a final report on the financials for Hinsdale.
Other questions for Emery?
I just want to say really quickly that I really like the monthly budget versus actual
Yes,
summary
I spent
report that you've
I
given us.
spent a lot of time on Sunday morning trying to get that updated for the year.
It's well broken out. I think that it helps, it certainly helps me digest the information.
It
a little
helps
better. I just
me,
wanted to thank
it
you
helps
for-
me to look at year over year, just, and I think it's just a better snapshot of when you're looking at a, department level versus trying to muddle through every single line item. I think it's, for me, it's much easier to see the summary.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8, correspondence.
Well, so you have some you have some information in your packet related to the Board of Education. It's several sheets of paper that outline really the close end of fiscal year 2023. That was issued, again, just in the last month here. So if anybody has any questions, really the authority on this report would be the superintendent of schools, Melanie, and I'd be happy to pass along any questions that you have to her. I am not necessarily able to answer any questions that you have here now, but I can always try. That's all the correspondence I have.
Item 9, boards and commissions. Steve?
Thank you, Todd. We have this evening for consideration a candidate for the Historic Commission, Hamish Boutros, whose term would end in 2025 if accepted. So we'll start the vetting process for him.
Steve, may I make a suggestion? I know Amish. He was the speaker at the Memorial Day ceremony, and we had a lot of people who are already on the Historical Commission know him, have worked with him in the past, and I know we have a vetting process for consideration for boards and commissions, but since the Historical Commission is meeting this Wednesday, I'd like to move up Amish's appointment or his name to an appointment and vote on it tonight if the board allows that change. If not, then you could probably go to the meeting anyway, but not be an official member. But he certainly, and we've all seen his profile and his background, his MA in history, teaches history at the community college. He's lived in town, has grant writing and strategic planning experiences. And when we vetted him for a speaker at the Memorial Day services, as I said, there were several people already on the Soldiers Monument Commission who have met him, worked with him in the past, and spoke highly about him. So if the board is accepting of this, I'd like to suggest that we look at Amish as an appointment and not just as a consideration.
Jack, I see he's not a registered voter, and on the application, he answers the question, are you a registered voter in the town of Winchester? His answer is no.
So he may not be registered. And was that a requirement of the Historical Commission?
You're supposed to be an elector, which does suggest.
Okay.
So he'd be welcome to attend the meeting on Wednesday,
Yeah.
but would have to wait for a formal appointment.
Well, yeah, I was not aware that he was unregistered, and that was a requirement. Yeah, maybe we can let him know that he can still attend the meeting.
Okay. But we do have in line for appointment this evening, two candidates, and I would like to move that we appoint Jay Champagne to the Ad hoc Water Level Committee as a regular member, term to expire in March of 2025.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
And I would like to also move to appoint Steve Dew as a member of the Historic Commission, term to expire in December of 2026.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor? 6-0.
Okay, and we'd also like to acknowledge the resignation of Shannon Centrella from the Economic Development Commission. We'd like to thank her for her service and accept her resignation. That's it, Josh. Todd.
Thank you, Steve. All right, so now we are at moving item 11B, 23-68, discussion on the current and future grant opportunities with the Gilbert School Headmaster, Greg Shagru.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I appreciate the courtesy of being moved up in the agenda. Thank you. So I've been talking to Josh, and after attending these meetings for a little over 2 years, these meetings and also Board of Ed meetings, school court meetings, I've heard one message loud and clear, and that message is to explore the grant opportunities that are out there, to reduce some of the burden on the taxpayers. So that's what I've done. So I'm here tonight to talk about the status of some of those grants and where we are. Maybe I'll just pass this out first. Follow along with me.
Thank you.
So first and foremost, we are, I don't know if you've been following along the State Department of Education, State of Connecticut, they have extended, put out another grant opportunity for HVAC. There is roughly $244 million back in the coffers from a couple of different funds. So long story short there, the Gilbert School is applying for an HVAC grant. We are currently working with West State Mechanical to dive into that and what that would entail as far as kind of the scope and sequence and the cost of that job. I wish I had numbers for you tonight, but that was just not possible. Did meet with Josh probably about 10 days ago, maybe, 2 weeks, and we really kind of went into the grant and dove into the nuances of that, some of the requirements. It would require a letter of endorsement. Josh has kind of wrote a sample, and I'm not sure if he's shared it with the board, but
It is in the packet.
it's in the packet. He shared kind of 2 letters there that would meet the requirements of that grant that would allow us to move forward. And obviously, I wouldn't expect, you folks to be signing any letters without hard numbers, but I'm expecting those. We have a board meeting on Wednesday in which West State Mechanical is gonna come and just give, again, 30,000-foot view of what the project entails. He doesn't have specific numbers, but he does understand that we are on a fast track to hit the application deadline of December 31st. So those numbers are coming. So we're excited about that. The nice thing about that was if we were to come to fruition with this project, the Gilbert School would be the third of 3 schools in the town for our students to be fully air conditioned. So I think that's a feather in our cap again, as Josh said earlier. There's a lot of things to be proud of in the town. A couple other things just as of note. Last spring, we applied for the State of Connecticut School Security Competitive Grant Program, or SSGP. We were awarded $126,000 for that grant, and that comes with a reimbursement rate of 74.28%. I like Josh's statement the other day when we met, basically 75% coupon. And so I think that's a solid use of money. And we also were awarded the Connecticut Multimedia School Security Competitive Grant, or this MMSSGP, and we were awarded that also for $89,000. And lastly, we have one competitive grant out again now, and that's through the Department of Justice, their COPS grant, which is the School Violence Prevention Program. We are submitted $692,000 within grants. We'll see how that goes. We've just been notified that we should be hearing something. We anticipate an announcement within 1 to 2 weeks of that, which is kind of surprising. Quite frankly, the state of our federal government, I'm surprised they're able to move on that and give some notice on that. But we're here to talk about the grants, and like I said, I've heard you loud and clear for the last 2 years to go out and seek grants and try to get money to help with the projects that we need to do to move the Gilbert School along. So I'm proud to sit here before you tonight and say that we've done that, we've been awarded monies, and ultimately will have an impact first and foremost on our students, but also being financially responsible for our taxpayers as well.
Greg, questions for Superintendent? Jack?
Greg, when you apply for a grant for the Gilbert School,
Yeah,
that money comes directly to your funding?
that's correct.
Okay, it doesn't come through our town?
That's my understanding. That's how it'll come. It'll come to our funding, yes.
Okay, but that's the COPS grant,
That's correct, yes.
and these other grants have gone directly to you?
We haven't received those monies yet. I have to formally accept the grant, the 2 State of Connecticut grants. We have 45 days of it to formally accept them once we've been notified of them.
And when you present your annual budget, these show up as income?
These will definitely show up as revenue, yes.
Okay.
Other questions? Candace?
You're asking us to get involved in a grant that requires a portion that's paid by the town?
These 3 are the 4 that we're talking about are portions of the town.
Okay.
Yes. So the HVAC grant, we don't have a hard number yet.
Right.
But that's that sample letter that I mentioned that Josh and I spoke about. That particular grant, they wanted that letter up front. Okay, they wanted that before you can even move forward. The other 2 grants that we received, like I said, $126,000 and $89,000. That is at the reimbursable rate of 74.28%. And then the 3rd grant is the Department of Justice grant, the COPS grant, as it's called, and that too is the reimbursement rate is applicable there as well.
But you're seeking our vote and support for the HVAC grant. We didn't need to do any of these for the other grants.
Correct. That's just the way it was set up. The HVAC grant, the second phase, that was how it was set up. We had to submit letters of support, but we didn't need the formal letter kind of agreeing to the process.
And to jump in, this is true of some town grants too. You've seen me come forward with, for the steep grants, we had to have an authorizing resolution, and we had a conversation amongst the members of the Board of Selectmen about the $250,000 for 44 Elm Street. But there are other grants that we receive on a routine basis. For example, we have a very small grant from the Volkswagen Fund, settlement fund, that will help pay for 2 new charging stations to be installed down by our rec building. That never actually came in front of the board. So it's really the requirements of the grant funder, whether it be the federal government, whether it be the state government, some agency they're under, that dictates whether or not it needs to be approved by the Board of Selectmen beforehand. So just as Greg said, in the case of the grants that are already in process by the Gilbert School, they haven't required any town input. But for the HVAC grant, and this was true in round 1 as well, if I'm not mistaken, any application that goes forward requires a municipal resolution, not just the school corporation's vote. Right. So what you have in front of you, just to jump in and make sure that there's a clear understanding of next steps, what you have in front of you that was included in your packet tonight, aside from the wonderful letter that Greg gave you, is a agenda item summary that goes over a very brief amount of information that Greg put much more eloquently in his letter, and you also have an attached resolution. That's really a draft resolution at this point. As Greg said, we don't have hard numbers related to, okay, he goes for this grant, he gets 74.28% off. What does that leave the town left to pay? That's a question that needs to be answered, I assume, before you would like to vote in favor of this. But Greg's coming down today really just to give you the information, the overview of the grant. Make sure that you're not blindsided when he comes and asks for you to support the resolution and when he comes with numbers. But as soon as you have numbers, we'll, obviously I'm speaking for a board after I'll be gone, but I assume that there will be an invitation to have you back to talk further.
So in essence, we're just tabling this until we get the numbers. This resolution.
That's my recommendation too.
Correct. Well, and also, quite frankly, I mean, the two state grants for, in a sense, it's 126 and the 89,000. I mean, unless I hear an objection, I will submit for those monies. Because if not, those you'll have to end up paying the full price. So that's why, unless I hear an objection, which I don't, because I followed your lead and went out and got the grant. So I'm assuming that we're all systems go on those two as well.
I would have a suggestion on this resolution, and I know we're not voting on it tonight, but there is some complications in it. And who wrote the resolution? Josh, you did? Just that there's, the first statement, and Greg, you may want to chime in here just to understand. The Board of Selectmen seeks assistance in the funding of capital improvement projects for all schools that Winchester students attend. Now, the incorporation of the word all schools that Winchester students attend leads me to believe, well, this could be used for the charter school, because some of the Winchester students go there, Oliver Wilcott. What about any homeschool, private schools, parochial schools, religious schools? So I would suggest that that needs to be reworded, because if we say all schools for Winchester students attend, then that's going to leave a lot of opening for other schools to actually work towards some of this. Just a complicated wording.
I have no objections to a rephrasing, and obviously that was me writing that, not Greg, not the state or anybody else. The reason I included that language is because I'm sure, and I did actually think that through, if any other school that a Winchester student attends came and asked for a letter of support, the statement is true. The Board of Selectmen would seek assistance. That doesn't mean it would necessarily provide assistance.
Well,
if you see my meaning.
but this is really towards an HVAC grant application.
Oh, understood.
And it's not a broad base resolution. I'd just like you to reword that.
Yep. It's doable.
Move to table.
Second?
Any other discussion on that? All in favor of tabling? 6-0.
Great, thank you for your time. And again, I appreciate the courtesy of getting moved up.
Absolutely. Moving on to unfinished business, 23-58B, consider and possibly act on the implementation of new parking rules on Main Street.
Everybody's favorite subject. I have news, which is not something that I thought I was going to be able to say to you tonight, but luckily some news came this morning. Our chief of police was on the phone with DOT, and there is yet to be a written letter submitted to the town, but there will be. The phone conversation that he had was DOT expressing its support for the implementation of the plan as presented, should the Board of Selectmen so choose to act to affirm this proposal. Obviously, there has been a lot of conversation in multiple directions by the board. I think that the pros and cons of changing the signs on Main Street has been very well gone over. I'm not necessarily sure there's any new information on that front that we can introduce into the conversation. It also sounds like members of the public are pretty split on whether a change in our parking regulations is going to affect a change that's palatable. My advice is and will remain, we know how parking on Main Street works currently. we know that it's not working to anyone's particular satisfaction. Why not try something new with the knowledge you can always change back? So that remains my recommendation, but this really is a matter for the Board of Selectmen. I have not reattached the public comments that were received because I know you've seen them for a few meetings now.
All right.
Yeah, but if anybody would like me to pull those up and read them back into the record, I'm happy to do
Has
that.
there been any new comments since our last discussion?
There have been
on
no
this?
new public comments since the last session. So if there's an interest in the board in taking action, I also know you're not necessarily a full board tonight, but otherwise, the motion to table would be the appropriate action if their board isn't ready to take action.
We should table this.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of tabling number 23-58B? Opposed? 6-0. 23-60B, consider and possibly act on the adoption of amendments to the driveway ordinance.
Okay, so now I don't want anyone to think I'm starting with a theme, but we are continuing this conversation related to the removal of the driveway ordinance. The Planning and Zoning Commission has informed me that it will likely be around mid-November that they make their final determination on their regulation. So I am keeping this on your agenda, and Bob, I'm sorry, you'll have to keep moving through this as you go along. I've been keeping this on your agenda so that it's not forgotten and that it's actively on everyone's mind. But at this time, it is my recommendation that you table until the Planning and Zoning Commission
I move that
has
the
its-
Board of Selectmen table the discussion until the next regular meeting.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? 6-0. Item 23-63, consider and possibly act on the adoption of an ordinance creating a cultural district commission.
All right, so there is a very small update that's occurred on this. As requested, because it was pointed out that if adopted as it currently stands, the ordinance would allow for 9 individuals to be appointed to the Cultural District Commission. So under subsection C of this draft ordinance, we have changed, as requested, the number of individuals who must represent the city's arts and culture community to 5, and the number of people who must live or work within the cultural district to 4, which is a lowering from 6 to 5 and a lowering from 5 to 4, to make sure that the numbers evenly divide into 9. So it's my recommendation. This is only meeting 2 out of 3. There's still one more meeting where changes can be made and comments can be heard and listened to as part of this process, but it's my recommendation that the Board of Selectmen adopts the motion as presented on the agenda item summary.
Josh, you made the changes with the numbers. Were there any other changes?
There were
in
no
this
other
document?
changes to the draft ordinance. That was the only change discussed at the last meeting. In the meeting before that, there were slight changes made to the ordinance,
But we
which
asked
related.
for the land use or where the boundary was.
Yes, the boundaries and the inclusion of the map
Yep.
on the back.
Yep.
I recommend that the Board of Selectmen recognize that this is the second of 3 public meetings where a new ordinance to create a cultural district commission in Winston is considered, and that the board further consider this draft ordinance at its next regular meeting.
I'll
I'll
second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? 6-0. Item 23-65A, consider and possibly act on adopting a new town logo for external marketing purposes.
All right, we're cruising right along. I had a conversation with the individual who has been working with us on the draft logo. So some changes are being drawn up. It was requested that the image symbolizing the Gilson be changed out for an image of Town Hall. That work is not yet completed, but as soon as it is, it will be brought forward, it will be sent to Bob, because it likely won't be this week, and you can have further considerations. I had a conversation with the individual who's been working with us on the logo about the realistic nature or lack thereof, the cartoonishness, as one put it, of the logo. For the record, I like it, and I have heard some positive comments about it. But there was a comment made from the Board of Selectmen that perhaps the design could be made to feel a little, at least more on the realistic end of things. The individual that we're working with is not, however, an illustrator. They're really more on the marketing side, and they have recommended to me that we contract with an illustrator if we would like another full rendition done that is not in this style. So
Into the $4,000, we would go to someone else.
no. So we've only spent like $286 on this. It's really not a lot of money.
But you mentioned a $4,000 fee originally.
Well, no, so we have $4,000 that's in the town's
Account.
budget for
I see,
marketing.
I see, okay.
So that would help, actually, that's not even being used to cover these costs right now. We have grant money that's being used to cover these costs right now, but having a logo would, I think, put us in a position where we could better market. Okay. So, no, I expect this would only be another few $100s, but before I go through an extra person and an extra set of expenditures, even albeit they're small, I wanted to make sure that the Board of Selectmen still felt that that was a worthy investment of time and energy. Or is this something that, on a trial basis, with the exchange of the Gilson for Town Hall, could be worked with?
I was thinking about this after our last meeting. You're trying to promote the arts in this town, trying to promote this as a, yeah, so if we, so the Gilson, it still looks like one of the fire departments, would be a symbol of something artsy.
It would.
Town hall, and that was my suggestion, was the town hall. But if you're trying to promote this as a city of culture and arts, you might stick with a symbol of the arts, maybe like the AMP or another building. I mean, the Gilson's great, but that does not look like the Gilson.
No, if you change the way that the windows look on the bottom, and you also change the way that the marquee appears in the middle, I do think you could make it look more like the Gilson.
But that's the idea of this
Right.
project, is to promote the town as a
Well,
cultural
it's only to, it says here to market the town.
Yeah,
Doesn't have any-
It's supposed to be holistic, right? I mean, we're moving forward, and the arts and cultures are certainly a part of that conversation with the creation of the cultural district, and with so many new. I mean, AMP only opened a year ago. It's pretty new and exciting for the town, just as an example. So the more that we can capitalize on that, the better. But hopefully, the marketing materials that are produced with this logo will be holistic. So, and that's why I think we tried to select, and we all said, I said it up front, this is not perfect. We know that. This is always going to be a work in progress. But representing the lake, representing the hills, representing the college, the Soldiers Monument, and the Gilson represents a fairly holistic picture of what Winchester is. Best of town and country. You know, you add Town Hall in there, maybe it gets a little bit more civic-minded than it was originally intended. The nice thing about this, there's really no right or wrong answer. It's just really what speaks to, right now, the members of the Board of Selectmen. We just gotta hope it speaks to the public too.
Just curious, if I see also there's a round version, if this is implemented, what purposes going forward would the original seal serve?
So the original seal for any original and official documents, certainly it would continue to be used. The seal would continue to be shown here in the Board of Selectmen chambers. The seal would continue to be used on any, like I said, documents that are being created by the town clerk's office, my office, the Board of Selectmen, anything like that. Even your agendas will continue to have the seal on them. This would really be an external facing, solely for marketing purposes, logo.
Well, no, it's a great idea, and we said last time that there is certainly a need for this, but I just wonder if we ought to wait until after November 7th.
That's what I was thinking, these expenses might be better. You know, we don't want to spend money now, and then if a new board was to come in with a different idea in the eyes. You know, we don't wanna spend money twice.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
it might
no,
be
that's fair.
best to table it till the second meeting in November.
Yeah, that's a dating thing, second meeting in November.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Are you making that as a motion, or you want?
I'll make the motion to table 23-65A to the second meeting in November.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Candace?
I'm abstaining.
Abstaining? Okay, 5-1, or 501. Item, moving on to new business, item 23-67, proposed line item transfers.
So there are a number, this is for fiscal year '23. I want to make sure that that's clear before we go forward. We are not talking about the current fiscal year. This is for trying to close out some overages on the last fiscal year's budget. So it doesn't actually total a significant amount. It's, a great amount, I should say. Any money significant, but $21,060 is the total between several different departments. We see that there are small overages within the probate court cost. We've already had conversations here about the Laurel City Commission overages that occur and the way in which we hope to correct those expenses in the future to make sure that everything's caught up on the Laurel City Commission side. We have the Inland Wetlands Commission Secretary and Support Staff and Fringe Benefits lines that had slight overages. The Civil Service Commission, with the sheer volume of searches that we were doing last year, had some overages, relatively small. And within other town properties, with water, sewer usage, maintenance of grounds, contracted services, I believe most of those are related to our upkeep of Bachelor, which is now not an expense that we are bearing, which is nice that we've been able to move forward with that project. All of these transfers, these proposed transfers that are presented to you tonight add up to, like I said, $21,060. And it's my recommendation that these proposed transfers be made as presented.
I have a question to Anne Marie. Anne Marie, these transfers that we're receiving now in October 18th, are they final? Would you be coming back to us at another time with any more transfers?
We shouldn't unless there is an audit, unless there was an audit adjustment to one of the expenditure line items that threw a line item, over budget. That would be the only, or through a department over budget. These line item transfers are specifically for only those departments that were over budget in total. So unless there's an audit adjustment that's, forthcoming, then yes, this should be on that list.
For $21,060, I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the following line items, the appropriation transfer for multiple departments per the attached document. Do we need to read each one of these?
Technically, no, this is the attachment. If anybody wants to see them, they can see them.
Is there a second?
Second then.
Thank you, Steve. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Opposed? You're okay? 6-0. Item C, 23-69, consider and possibly act on the approval of an updated personnel policy.
So this is a pretty simple one, and I apologize that it's going to take the board's time tonight, but I think it's an important distinction. As I mentioned earlier tonight, there has been some confusion that I've heard out in the public about the Board of Selectmen's hiring review committee that was formed. That's a function that was adopted with the recent adoption of new personnel policies and the removal of the Civil Service Commission from the town's functions. The hiring review committee, as it was called and referred to in the prior draft, or the current draft, I should say, but hopefully soon to be the prior draft of the personnel policies, was really always intended, per the conversations that occurred here with the Board of Selectmen, to be a group of selectmen that would oversee and receive a report from the town manager to ensure that all of the policies that are in that document are being implemented correctly. There's no decision-making that is occurring from the Board of Selectmen about who is to be hired. There's no decisions to be made about the type of person that is to be hired. All of those are already outlined in the policies, which has already been reviewed by the Board of Selectmen, being implemented by the town manager. So my simple proposal tonight is to clarify this, to make sure that there's no confusion from the public, from sitting board members, from future board members, is to change the title of this policy within our personnel policy book to hiring oversight, and to have the first line of that policy read, a 3-member committee of the Board of Selectmen, known as the Hiring Oversight Committee, which is the change, is hereby established and shall meet no less than quarterly to review the hiring processes instituted by the town manager's office. So very simple change. Really, it's just a title change, but I do think it helps clarify for the public, for future board members, and for current board members exactly what the intent was. So it's my recommendation that the Board of Selectmen adopt the attached policy as presented.
Discussion?
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a second? I'll second. Further discussion?
Just one question again, Josh. Since this isn't, since I don't have the original that we had originally called this committee, the only change here is what? The 3-member committee?
The title is being changed from hiring review to hiring oversight.
And that's the only change since the last time we saw this?
And the title is being added as the hiring oversight committee
In the
rather
first
than the
sentence.
hiring review committee. And that's included in the first sentence that I just read.
Other discussions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed?
Abstaining.
Abstain. 501. Moving on to item 12, executive session, to include Town Manager Kelly. A, to discuss the sale of town-owned land. B, to discuss town manager search and transition. And C, to discuss contract negotiations.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? Time is 8:15.
We'll be upstairs.
Best friends. How do I go about finding them? Just would search what? She could hardly hear you.
Oh, I could hear hardly anything too.
She's quite deaf, actually.
I think that's possibly definitely.
I'm working on it now.
Too much wood splitting.
Is it countrywide?
No, this is a nationwide organization.
So that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, countrywide, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You know,
There it is.
well,
I think it's the bestfriends.org. Best
okay.
Friends Animal Society Donate to Health. I believe when I was researching,
guiding and that kind of thing. I really enjoyed it. And the thing that impressed me is that seeing all of the stations, all of the performers, there were some common threads in there. Were there? Yeah, there were, the Civil War guys, and they had a couple of things together. And there was a couple of other examples.
I would reach out to
And the people I was with in the group were enthusiastic. That helps too. It's too bad you had to postpone it. It was just out of shape.
I wish I had her energy.
Yes.
Oh my God, she's 92 years old.
Oh, yeah.
So just write in bestfriend.org.
Well, look it up, because she's not gonna be on the computer.
Exactly.
Okay,
All right.
wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
They need to replace those benches. Oh my God, are they
No,
horrible?
well, that's the purpose. that
I know you don't want
are
them to,
comfortable.
you don't want them to, people to stay, but honest to God, they are. I was
know.
afraid it was gonna break. No,
They've actually had them tightened up.
They need to tighten them up again.
All right.
Second one. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.